Hi, howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. Hey, everybody, we are here with first-time guest, and it's about time that I had him on the show. Nate Rudd, Idaho Research, which indicates he lives in Idaho. And for all of you that are unaware, there's way more Sasquatch in Idaho than you think. A lot of them. I might remind you that I did a whole saga about somebody's a 5-year-long interaction with the Sasquatch there, the Glag saga. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. What planet have you been on? But for right now, we got somebody that's currently over there, which means not particularly too far from me. Might even see him over here with my research team this summer. So welcome to the show, Nate Rudd.
Duke, thank you. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. And I got to correct you. I'm actually in Washington.
Oh, you're in Washington.
Yeah, I'm real close to the border. I'm about 20 minutes from the border if you're on I-90. So it's Washington, Idaho Bigfoot Search. WIBS is our group. Yeah, that's just an easy way to remember. But yeah, I'm in Washington, but we spend a lot of time in Idaho. Like I said, we're right on the border here. So this whole area, as you know, well, the whole Pacific Northwest, obviously, but this corridor here where the Selkirks go up north into BC is just it's real active. We've had all kinds of stuff happen, all over the place. So we live in a good area to do this.
I believe it. I know somebody that lives in the Selkirk Mountains has been off and on in contact with me for about 5-6 years, and they have mountain giant sightings up there. There's some areas they won't even go into.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Apparently, they get along good with the local Sasquatch. They don't have any problems with them. It's those other giant things on the other side of the valley over in that other side of the mountain range. I'm not going over there, sort of thing.
And people see them. There's a lot of reports of 11 to 14, 15 foot, bipedal creatures. I mean, you hear about it, just like the regular big reports. So, when you have that many people seeing these things, you got to believe it. I mean, we know once you're an explorer, once you've had an encounter, as you know, Duke, it changes everything, and you question everything. It's not just Bigfoot. You question everything once you realize how they're covering this up, and I mean, there's all kinds of questions of why, and we could go on and on. But it's frustrating. They're hiding something from us, not just the beans, but they're hiding. There's other things going on that they don't want us to know, knowledge that they don't want us to have, is my belief. And that's pretty obvious with the cover-ups in the national parks and all the missing people. And I'm not saying that's all the Sasquatch. Some of it could be, but I think there's a lot of other things out there, obviously, too. But no, I get a little disgruntled at my government and powers that be quite a bit. It's kind of my hot button. I just think people deserve to know, Duke. And when you take your family out in the forest and you got kids, and there's been encounters, maybe unfriendly encounters in certain areas, and you're taking your family and kids up there to a spot, I think you deserve to know. I mean, there's always going to be your predators and stuff, but and that's part of the deal. When people have these sightings and encounters, it's so shocking to them because they're taught their whole life that these things don't exist. We've been lied to all these years, and something like that happens to you. It like I said, it changes you. And for me, I question so much more than I used to question, not just in this field, because of what's happened to me. And it just opens a lot of doors, a lot of rabbit holes. But that's kind of, like I said, kind of my hot button. They're keeping a lot from us. That's for sure.
Yep. And as far as the park thing goes, even Pilates himself mentioned when somebody pinned him down on a talk show recently, what do you think Bigfoot's doing this? And he said, absolutely not. There's no physical evidence. These people just disappear. There's not like big tracks come in and pick them up or something. They're just poof, gone.
No, I mean, I don't know what's going on, dude. There could be a whole bunch of different things, but you got to think about some of those stories that he tells, even the ones he tells in his books about small children that were, they end up finding them 2 or 3 days later, and they survived real cold temperatures, and and they said I was in a hole with a bear or whatever. You know, it's a toddler,
Yeah.
and that's all they can wrap their head around is that it was a big hairy bear or whatever. I mean, obviously, and there is some of those if you read into those accounts and those stories, there is a lot of similar stories like that with small children, and then of course, you know, that they find the kid, you know, 2,000 feet up over another mountain range or whatever, and with no shoes on and no scratches on their feet. So obviously something freed them there, or they were transported there in some way. So, I mean, we could go on, and I don't have all the answers, that's for sure. But it may
the
be a
ones that I
common.
think are Sasquatch involved are the ones where the kid disappears. They search the whole area over and over again. And 2 or 3 days later, the kid shows up perfectly fine in the same area he disappeared from. And they searched multiple times. All of a sudden, the kid's back there again.
Yeah.
One of my pet theories on that is that, there's not one thing that's taking people.
No.
It's multiple things. And in some cases, there could be negative cryptids that snatches a kid up. And if the Sasquatch sees something like that, well, you know what? They have thought process, and they're going to go, well, if I let them get away with taking this kid, humans are going to swarm our woods with boomsticks, and it's going to be miserable. But if I just bring the kid back again, they'll all go away.
Good point. That's a great point. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, extraterrestrial. I mean, people see lights and UFOs in conjunction with sightings and encounters, and it's a weird subject. That's
and
for
people
sure.
always discount cultists too. You know, well, cultists, if they did anything, there'd be signs like a human abducted them. Well, that's if you don't believe that cultists can summon demons.
Yeah.
Or if you don't believe skinwalkers could be real. Those things don't have to leave any trace. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think there's a lot of entities out there in our mountains and different things. So, that's kind of the thing that kind of sucks you in. Oh, there's so much to it, and so many answers or questions that you have, you know, and that's what keeps me going. Just all the unanswered questions, I guess.
I'd like to get as much information as I can out to people so they at least know what potentially is in an area that they go camping in, what to look out for, how to avoid it. You know, keep people and these other weird things from having conflicts or from them grabbing us. You know, as I brought up on my regular biweekly spot on Spaced Out Radio last Thursday, I was talking about people that are getting massacred in parks. And in this case, we're talking about park rangers in Yellowstone. And they're saying it tie-ins with possible cult and UFO activity. But I was digging more into it, and there's somebody who did a report on it almost an hour long. And this stuff goes all the way back to the 1980s. There's flaps where people are getting disappeared and killed and stuff in the park. And they'll just close off part of the park, bring in a team to eradicate the problem, and then open it back up again. Well, in another year or two, it happens again. And it seems that the culprits are gugwies that live in the lava caves underneath Yellowstone. And somehow they're tied in with these other cultists or, you know, UFOs or whatever the hell, because it seems to be the same kind of repeat activity and sightings and stuff when this is happening.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of things out there. You got to be safe. That's for sure, especially if you're taking your family out there. But you know, I don't believe they're all bad, Duke. I think they're like people, like humans. You know, there's good and bad, and they're like there's maybe different types, like we've talked about before, and there's, you know, then you talk about the dog man and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's just like humans. There's good and evil, you know, and there's always a battle.
I agree, and I think Sasquatch is getting blamed for lots of stuff they don't do, because anytime there's something peculiar in the woods that doesn't add up to a normal human or animal incident, everybody that, you know, has the imagination for it immediately defaults to, well, Sasquatch must have done it. And 99% of those people have no idea there's other cryptids out there besides Sasquatch. And they're all pretty much more hostile than Sasquatch are, with the possible exception of the little people, which are just all over the place. The Sasquatch are really not aggressive toward humans. They're pretty neutral, and they are individuals, and it's a case-by-case basis. And some groups are, you know, actually sort of friendly. They're curious. They want to check us out. and other ones
Yeah.
can't stand humans. Maybe they've been shot at when they were a kid or something. And
Exactly.
yeah, don't push their temper around, or you'll be on the next missing person report. But I personally think the
Right.
number of people being abducted or killed by Sasquatch is very low. A lot of these aggressive encounters you hear on these shows on YouTube and stuff, they're complete crap. People are making them
Yeah.
up. And especially when you're hearing it secondhand, somebody wrote a story and sent it into some microphone monkey to read. How the hell do they know that actually happened? Most of them never vet the people that send the story in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree. And a lot of times, Duke, and this, they'll scare someone off way before it escalates to something like that, like they did with us in our hunting camp encounter. Usually people are going to freak out. They hear a scream that rattles their bones and makes them throw up. That you're probably going to leave. So
and there could be other reasons for it too. It could be that there's a dangerous cryptid in the area that's going to kill you, and they don't want to get blamed, so they chase their ass out of there. I had another encounter where people were walking down a trail, and a big one just stepped out on the trail and stopped them. Didn't do anything. He just stood there and stared at them, and they're freaking out. And then they could hear wild turkeys further down the trail behind them, and one of them apparently getting killed. And then he just kind of turned back and looked at them again, walked off into the woods. When they got down there's a whole pile of fresh turkey feathers on the trail. They were hunting turkeys. Didn't want dumb humans to interrupt the hunt. It was just that simple.
Could very well be. And maybe that's what happened to us. I don't know. But
well, let's get into your stories then. Where does the whole Bigfoot thing start with you?
Well, Duke, it's probably kind of the same story a lot of people have. I was a kid in the 70s. I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 69, turning 53 this summer. And, that was back a little bit different time back then where, the family would sit around the TV, watch TV together. And as a kid, I got introduced to, what was it called? Leonard Nimoy's show, In Search of. And I remember
Spock discovers cryptids.
And I remember watching those shows as a kid, 4, 5, 6 years old. And I remember Boggy Creek, and I remember being pretty scared at one point, pretty young. And, I'll never forget my dad. That was something we did together when I was about, 4 or 5. That show, The Night Stalker, came on TV with Darren McGavin. And my bedtime, I think, was around 8 o'clock. And my dad would wait till my mom went to bed, and he'd come sneak me out of bed, and I'd watch those shows with him. So that's kind of how I got introduced to it. And so I was always into the monster movies and stuff as a kid growing up in the 70s. And then life went on. And at some point, let's see, it would have been 93. I married my wife, and her dad was an outfitter and a hunting guide out of the North Fork of the Clearwater River area, basically the headwaters of the North Fork of the Clearwater up there. You've got those high mountain lakes with all those creeks and streams that feed that North Fork. And Dave's his name, great guy, a real outdoorsman, if you met him. And he's got stories. So when I met my wife, I started hearing stories about he didn't even really say it was Bigfoot. They had this area where they'd all get freaked out when they came out at night. They get the chills. They feel like they're being watched. They'd hear screams. Weird stuff they couldn't explain. And you got to keep in mind, these guys are seasoned hunters, seasoned lifelong outdoorsmen. So they know their animal sounds and that kind of thing. And there was an area, they named it Boogeyman Gulch. It was a high mountain draw with a creek running through it. And they'd all had weird experiences in there. I don't know if they ever saw one, that group. But this one year, a hunter came in. His name was Farrell. He was a Vietnam vet. This would have been around 1980, 81, somewhere in there. And Dave had been doing this for quite a few years. I think he started in the late 70s, somewhere around there. And this hunter came in, and, Dave, he wanted to go hunt in this area they called Boogeyman Gulch because of how it creeped him out and all that stuff. And Dave told him what kind of the story of what had happened to him. And he goes, well, I'd like to go over there. That looks good. I'm going to go hunt over there. And Dave goes, okay, whatever, be careful. They were this Farrell was by himself. I think they were in groups though. Okay. And so he proceeded to go into this draw and set up, and they were elk hunting. And he was sitting on, and we've been in this area many times, Duke, and I could tell you lots of stories. But anyways, so he set up to hunt elk there. above this draw, and he'd been sitting there a while. And this was it wasn't dark yet, I know that. And he was scanning the draw, sitting in a spot. And all of a sudden, he apparently got this feeling of being watched for sure, maybe a feeling of dread, just real uncomfortableness. And at some point, he focused in down below, maybe to his left, on this big black stump. And he was watching it, and he knew something wasn't right. And after a period of time, this stump literally stood up.
Oh, God.
9 feet tall, and took 4 or 5 steps toward him and screamed at him, blood curdling. He flipped out, as you can imagine. And he took off back towards, he was about a mile in this draw from their old hunting camp. And so he ripped it out of there, and this thing was crashing, breaking sticks and trees and screaming the whole time. He was able to keep ahead of it. And about halfway from where this happened to the old hunting camp was an old tree stand. It wasn't old at the time. It's an old tree stand now. And he jumped up in this tree stand with his rifle, and he got up there, and he could still hear it down below making a ruckus. And he was checking to see how many bullets he had, right? I think he only had 3 or 4 or 5. And at some point he decided, I'm not going to square off with this thing. I'm getting out of here. And he climbed. The guy is terrified to death, thinks he's going to die. He thought it was going to kill him. Yeah. He jumps out the tree stand, hightails it back to camp, leaves, takes off. The other hunters, my father-in-law, get back. He's gone. His truck's gone. So they know he left, And I guess they figured, well, he must have had an emergency or something. Back then, there's no cell phones, right?
Right. So you can't call him and find out what happened. Yeah. It's just, well, he left.
Very, very, very early 80s. He took off. He was gone. He was out of there. So, my father-in-law, Dave, had to track him down. Of course, they still had a few days of hunting, whatever the camp was. And he was able to hunt him down and get a hold of him a few days later when they all got back to town. And he said, geez, Farrell, what happened? We were worried about you. Did you have an emergency? What happened? And so Farrell proceeded to tell Dave that story that I just told you. Of course, hearing it from Dave, it's a little better.
Yeah.
This is secondhand, but that's the basics of it. This guy was in there hunting. That stump stood up and screamed at him, chased him all the way out of there. He thought he was going to die. He said, Dave, he flat out told Dave, I saw a Bigfoot. I thought it was going to kill me. I'll never go back there. And it changed him, And I don't know if he's still around. I'd love to interview him, but it's going back quite a ways. But that's just one. That's the big story coming out of there, Duke. And there's a lot of other stories. And we go back there every year, and we've had we get callbacks every year, screams from ridge to ridge. And I don't know if you're familiar with that area, Duke, but it's a real remote area. It's not where you're not gonna run into other campers. You might see another hunter once in a while, but where this happened, Dave and them had horses. He had an outfitting setup, and they all rode in on horses. So this is about, I'd say, 3 to 4 miles in from the last place you can park a vehicle. Huh. In fact, where this old skidder road starts, it's not even one of those gates that the Forest Service has a key to that you can unlock it open. This thing's a bolted steel gate with railroad ties. It's bolted on there. So they don't want anybody going in there. And the more I think about that, I wonder, there's some reason they don't want people going in there. And all these stories came out of there. And there was a game warden up there. His name was Gene Eastman, and you can look him up. If you look up Gene Eastman, you'll find some articles. He actually wrote a book called The Bitterroot Crossing. He chronicled with his wife the journey of Lewis and Clark through that whole area. And you can find that book on Amazon. I don't own it.
Hey, that's right where I am.
Yeah. And
the original path that their scouting guide Mullen found through here still exists. It's called Mullen Road. They paved it.
Okay, and I guess they put some markers through there and stuff, but they had to really beat the brush to get in there and follow that, find out where they went and all that. But anyways, I was going to tell you, Gene had a lot of stories. He was up and patrolled that area on horseback for 30 years. He was game warden up there. did everything on horseback. And over the years, you know, of course, Dave being up there with his party all the time, hunting during the hunting seasons, the different seasons, he met Gene early on and they became friends. And Gene would come into camp, check their tags. They'd exchange stories and stuff. And, you know, Gene had a lot of stories of big prints and screams. And there's a lot of stories of screams from one ridge and one answering on another ridge up there. A lot of that going on. And we get that when we let out a call late at night up there. But I did send you some pictures too, Duke, and maybe when you air this episode, you can show the listeners the pictures of the Bigfoot that snuck up on my son there. That was the first time I ever went to this location. I just married my wife. I think my son was maybe 3 years old, 2.5 maybe. And we went up there just for a camping trip. And back then, keep in mind, I'm not looking for Bigfoot. I'm not into it. Of course, I'd heard some of those stories Dave told us. And long story short, I'll try to this quick. My wife and son went down by the creek where this, basically at the bottom of this draw, the story I just told you about the guy getting chased out. They were standing at the bottom of that draw. There's a little creek that feeds a bigger creek, and that's where they were standing. And we had these pictures for 20 years. You know, back then you had the little disposable cameras. Right. And you take a bunch of pictures, take it in, get it developed. Well, my son and I have been going there now for 5 or 6 years every year. That's our big yearly trip because they're up there and it's active. They're still up there. And for some reason I thought, hey, I know I got some pictures of that trip in our old bins with all the photos. And so one day I took about, I don't know, must have took a couple hours. I went downstairs, dug through my stuff, found the pictures after a couple hours, pulled them out, was looking through them. So I started snapping pictures of the actual picture, you know what I mean? Because it's an old printed picture. And I started sending to my son, Corey, and I said, hey, Corey, this is your first trip up to Boogeyman when you were about 3. And only a couple minutes went by, Duke, and he started texting me and sending me pictures back. And he's like, Dad, what's that standing behind me? And I saw it immediately, but I didn't see it when I was looking at him. We had those pictures for like 20 some years. And
oh God.
And you know what? I'll just let your viewers and listeners judge for themselves when you put those pictures up. But I think you'll see what I mean. I zoomed in on it. You can see its eyes, its nose. You can see the nostrils on its nose. But what I think happened is my son was 3 and he's giggling and laughing and playing by the creek. And I was up above with her dad. And so my wife and kid were down there by themselves, which kind of made my stomach turn when I saw that. But I think they snuck down to have a look at my son, and there might be more than one in the picture, but you know, it's old. It's obviously not digital. It's old prints, but they're honestly pretty good for being old pictures. You'll see what I mean. But I was kind of setting that area up that way. So,
well, trust me, with the viewers I got, if there's more than one in that picture, they'll point out where they are. Don't worry about that.
I just got to warn them, you know, it's not like your phone pictures. It's, but they're pretty darn good, I would say, for being like 1993 or no, it would have been like 95. I'm sorry. Anyways, so I guess what I'm getting at, Duke, is I heard all those stories from my father-in-law over the years. And at some point about, God, it's got to be about 8 years ago now, we decided to go out for the first time ever and actually look and take it serious. But I'd been doing some research online, you know, peripheral research, I wanted to know where, I wasn't aware of our area of how active it is. So I started getting on the sites and finding the reports. And I was really surprised how many reports there are in this whole area up here. Just there's tons of them. And so that gave me kind of a place to start as far as where to look. And my father-in-law has a place at Priest Lake. So we've been up and spent a lot of years up there. And you know about Upper Priest, there's some aggressive ones up there.
Cindy Goodbreak and run around that area with all the weird stuff up in her neck of the woods too. Oh, Hoodoo Mountain, that's not a dead giveaway. Something weird might be there.
Yeah. I've got 3 really good reports from Upper Priest that are they're you know, I'd say they're on the aggressive side. But anyway, so started doing research online, finding out that there's a ton of reports. So we were up the lake one summer. This is about 8 years ago. The rest of the family went in the cabin. It was probably about, 10 at night. Chris and I were out on the deck, and we'd been talking about it, watching the shows, you know, just like everyone else. And I go, Chris, you know, we're hunters. We always have our gear with us, always have a sidearm. I said, Chris, let's, why don't we go on a night hike and look for Sasquatch, And he kind of chuckled. He goes, you serious? Looked at it. I go, yeah, I'm serious. I mean, how are we ever going to know? Keep in mind, we're hunters. We're out in the woods and the mountains all the time. So it's some people think it's a little crazy to go out at night, and it might be a little crazy up there because there are grizzlies. There are grizzlies up there and other animals that could eat you. But Chris said, yeah, okay, let's do it. So we grabbed our gear, and the place we decided to go, just off a whim, and we'd been there before during the day, but never at night, is the ancient cedar forest above Priest Lake there. It's called the Roosevelt Groves. It's actually a national park that Teddy Roosevelt founded back in the day, early 1900s, I think it was. And
it's Teddy Roosevelt's the king of the cover-up. Every place that he could find Bigfoot, he made it a national park. Just keep that in mind.
I think you're right. I think you're right, Duke. And so we, we've been up there, and it's a cool hike. You got to go there sometime if you get a chance to. But I'd love to take you there if you ever want to go. It's remote. It's way up.
I've heard it's super beautiful.
It is amazing. It's Highway 57 that runs up on the west side of Priest there. And the further you go, you're gonna go past the lake, and it's gonna turn to gravel and basically go to the Canadian border up there, right? And then you kind of run parallel to Upper Priest once you get up there. And there's a Huff Lake up there. It's an old ancient boggy lake. It's really cool. So we, like I said, we grabbed our gear. I'm trying not to beat around the bush here. We jumped in the rig. It's a good 45-minute drive to get up there. We booked it up there, got out, probably got up there about 11:30, grabbed our gear, our flashlights, stuff like that, proceeded to hike up that trail. It's probably, I'm guessing, 1.5 miles uphill, not hard hike at all, to get into where the cedars are. Some of those cedars are 2,000 years old, really huge trees. Yeah, it's really something else. But about halfway up that trail, Duke, we were hiking. We had our lights off. We're trying to be really quiet. First time out ever doing this. And we had a rock thrown at us. And it came from my right off a hill. And you could almost hear it coming through the air, and it landed right in front of us on the trail. A big thud, like boom, thud, and then it went boom, boom down the hill, rolled down the hill on the left. And that froze us. We were just standing there in the dark, pitch black. There's a huge corridor of giant trees, and I don't think there was a bunch of moonlight or anything that night. I remember it being real dark. And I remember hearing Chris rack around in his pistol, and we were just frozen there. And we just had that feeling too, something didn't feel right. And I don't know how long we stood there, honestly, in the dark. And we finally got our wits and turned our flashlights on and started scanning the hillside. Keep in mind, we never heard anything. Your mind tries to debunk that as maybe you spooked an elk or a deer, right? Mm-hmm. You hear a thump like that, but there was nothing ever running off or hooves or anything. And so I can't prove anything there, but something very weird we couldn't explain. And everyone knows what a rock sounds like when it's thrown and it hits the ground in front of you and rolls. And again, this was 11:30 midnight probably by then. No other people up there whatsoever. No other cars down below. And this is almost to Canada. It's way up there. So we pushed through that, hiked all the way into the cedars there, sat down. I think I did my first call ever. Probably felt really stupid doing it, honestly. I think I have a pretty good call now. I have one that works pretty good, but I did a scream or something, and immediately, Duke, we heard a scream in the distance. It was off in the distance somewhere, but it screamed back at us. And then a giant crash that was so loud. It wasn't like a tree falling over. It was like an explosion. To me, my mind pictured a big old dead tree just being swung against a tree and just exploding. It was so loud. And we kind of freaked out, and we looked at each other and we said, it's time to get out of here. We're way up there, and our car's way down below, and it's probably 12:30. And so that was our first trip ever. And that's what hooked us, honestly. I'm just telling you the truth. We had the rock thrown and heard that scream and heard the crash and kind of just put two and two together. And like I said, I can't prove any of that because we never saw anything. But that's how it got started. And we've been hooked ever since.
Don't feel bad about the Bigfoot call thing. As long as I've been doing this, I don't know how to do any Bigfoot calls. The only one I can do is a whoop, and that's it. when I show up in
Yeah.
my research area, which I'm always usually the first one that shows up. I've got the same song playing on the stereo every time when I show up. Park the
There you
car
go.
with the doors open, with the music still playing, and then I do my Bigfoot call. Hey guys, I'm here.
Well, hey, they know you with that music.
Works every
They're
time.
familiar.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
go out. We don't go out
Yeah.
and walk around at night. We had part of the team up on the hillside by where the Super X used to be, and it was late at night and it was starting to get dark. And one of them actually escorted them all the way back out. The guy at the back of the group could hear it walking behind him the whole time, all the way back again. And
Okay.
we don't need to go out in the woods. We
Yeah.
can't see a damn thing at night anyway. What's the point? And they're going to come right to camp. They're going to be hanging right around
You're
camp
right.
night long. So why go out there?
Yeah.
Be lazy. They'll show
And you
up.
No, you're right, Duke. You're right. And I got to say, we don't do a lot of calls. I use it sparingly and in the right situation, the right time.
Yeah.
A lot of times, what we'll do is, I kind of got this thing that works good where if you're in an area where they're at, they're there. You want to be quiet for a while. Like if you're up on a trail somewhere where you think they might be around, sit there for a couple hours, just listen. Sometimes you hear things, sometimes you don't. But when the night gets late, you let out, like, it's kind of a scream I do. I think you take them off guard, especially if they're a little bit further away. They don't know you're there, and
Yeah.
they'll call back at you. Now they'll be on to you pretty quick. So the first year, it was just me and Chris that went up to the Boogeyman Gulch. We said, hey, we got to go up there to where all those stories are, right? That was our next big trip. We had to go check that out because we knew all the stories came from there. And gosh, I think we got some
reasonable
calls.
to assume that there's activity going on there if you're getting stories out of there all the time.
Yes, there's a lot of activity. And so the second year, I got my son to come. He couldn't come the first year for some reason. But this is a cool story I'll tell really quick. We about halfway through our trip, we walked up the old trail that leads to that old hunting camp. It's probably a good 2-mile walk in the dark. And again, this was late at night, and we hadn't been getting much activity. And I think we were deciding to head on back to the truck. And I said, hey, let me throw out one last call just to see what happens. Didn't expect nothing. So I let out that scream, and we were above that old hunting camp area, right where the guy got chased out. And I let out a scream, and this thing whooped at me, Duke. And that was the cool thing. It didn't copy my scream. It was your classic whoop.
Yeah.
And it came from the hillside above that draw. And so the second time, I whooped back at it. I tried to copy the whoop. Did it 4 times. And then it quit. It just stopped. It wouldn't do it anymore. And, I don't know if it was a young one or whatever, but they were onto us, basically.
They're the ones that usually fall for it. As far as doing vocalizations and stuff, like I said, I really don't do that. But I have had experience with wood knocks with them. And if you notice, most of the time when you hear wood knock, it's one knock. It's just a single knock. And that's generally, I think, because they're trying to locate somebody else in their group. Where are you at exactly? Pop. Oh, you're over there. And they'll do one wood knock back again. When William was up here visiting with us, he got up in the morning, walked across the road over to where the big open field is, and as soon as they could see him from the other side, one would knock, bop, which is kind of odd because they actually use, from what I've heard from other people that interact with them, is generally if there's human intrusion in their area and they're trying to warn each other, 2 knocks. And we experienced that up in Coloma, where me and Shane were up there camping overnight. And like that town is seriously haunted. People don't even like to go up there during the day, much less camp overnight there. So sun comes up in the morning. He's screwing around with his truck, fixing something underneath the hood, and I'm on the hillside up above him. There's 2 wood knocks from the other far side of where the 2 clearings are, probably a couple hundred yards away. Like somebody got up and went, whoa, knock, knock.
Yeah.
There's humans over there. So I picked up a stick and I went, knock, knock. Yeah, humans. Let me verify that for you. Knock, knock. Yeah, there's humans here. I'm sure they got a bang out of that.
Yeah. So that little incident I just told you about with the whoops was my son's first experience. And it was really special because there was 3 of us, and it all happened right there with 3 of us. And to do the
so
screen.
Do you think it was, you figure it was a young one then that was interacting with you?
guess. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I just, to me, it seems like you said, they could fall for that. And then, and it was late at night. They probably weren't expecting that.
Right.
But
well, let me
we've had that.
back up that with something else from the Bigfoot Outlaws, who have also mentioned that, they're actually good at doing the calls and they know what they
Yeah.
mean and they can copy them really well. But still, it's rare the adults fall for it. It's usually the younger ones that fall for it.
Yeah.
And then they come in and get, hey, that's humans tricking us. Now I'm mad.
That's what we were thinking, Duke. And then I was going to finish that little story up by saying that it was really dark and we were in this corridor of trees where your flashlight really can't penetrate the trees hardly at all.
Oh, God.
And they're on both sides. And so Chris, my brother-in-law, I think his gut was screaming at him. He's like, Nate, I don't have a good feeling about this. They could be locating us right now, coming to us. And I go, I think you're right. I think we should probably get out of here. Now, keep in mind, this was early on, maybe our second year. So I would like to say that we'd stick it out there now, be a little braver. But who knows? Who knows? We've been in some situations. But anyways, so we do that trip every year. It's awesome. We get callbacks, audio. I have some pretty good audio and stuff from there. And yeah, a lot of stories coming out of there. It's kind of like Jurassic Park up there. They get a lot of rain, a lot of snow, and it's thick ferns everywhere, giant trees, real thick. You could break an ankle in there. You got to be careful. Real thick forest up there. But yeah, we do that trip every year, and we go through Superior there. We pass Missoula, or wait, no, Superior's before Missoula. Yeah, you cut off Superior and head up the pass that way. That's how you get up there. But it's a big area. You ever been up there, Duke? It's beautiful.
Nope, have not been in that area.
It's Hoodoo Pass, as a matter of fact, is how you get up there.
Oh, well. What a suggestive name.
Yeah, it's out of Superior, Montana there, going south. So you're in Montana and you go I think it's about 6,000 feet up, and then you drop back down, you're right in Idaho. It's on the border there.
Okay.
But just beautiful, pristine, that North Fork of the Clearwater has world-class fishing. Fly fishermen from all over the world go there. Now where we go is a lot further up from that, but yeah, just beautiful areas. So,
well, as far as that goes, if you're taking the road from Missoula to Coeur d'Alene, the freeway, it's 167 miles of mountain, valley, and forest, nothing else. Oh,
it's gorgeous.
There's no place for anything to hide in there. It's only 167 miles of mountains and forest.
Dude, trust me. I told you my daughter goes to U of M there in Missoula, and every time, I've only been over there a couple times so far. It's her first year, but every time I go over there, I make my wife drive. So I'm just like this in the window, It's amazing through there. Yeah, it's awesome. But in Duke, I don't know. It's kind of evolved. Before then it was kind of like fun and games, but then we had our hunting camp encounter, and that kind of changed everything for me. I realized that there's a lot more to this, a lot more to these things with their special abilities, I call them, and stuff where, yeah, we got pretty terrorized in our hunting camp. This was 2017. And I sent you pictures of some stuff that happened there. But it's a trip my buddy Rob and I do. He's one of my best friends. We've been doing it for about 7 years in this spot. And I've been to this spot years before. And of course it wasn't really in my mind. So, it's really funny. And Duke, tell me what you think. But once you're aware of these things and these beings are out there, it's almost like we kind of got the saying where you get tagged, where I think they know, or something, where you're more likely to have experiences with them once they know that you're aware of them. Does that make sense? And
yeah, and that's what all the natives say too, that you get marked after
yeah,
you've seen one or whatever. Then the other ones always know that you've seen one. And
yeah, yeah,
apparently it precedes you. You can go to some area of forest in a state you've never been to and walk in there, and all of a sudden you'll hear a whoop. And you'd be like,
yeah,
really? Yeah, really.
yeah.
They know
That's
you're
kind of the way
there.
it is.
They're already there following you around.
Yeah. So I can't really speak for the rest of the guys, but that's kind of how I feel. And Duke, honestly, I'm a little sensitive to this kind of thing. I lived in a haunted house for 10 years and I saw some apparitions and experienced some crazy ghost stuff in that house. And I kind of feel like, I knew when the spirits were around and stuff. So I don't know. Everyone's got that gift. I think it's just a matter of if you can use it or whatever. Can't communicate with them or nothing like that. I'm not saying
No.
that. Just sensitive to their presence and presence like that. But
Well, even from
anyways,
long-term many years of hunting and stuff, a lot of people develop the ability to just feel like if you're being watched, you know right away. And some people are
yeah,
sensitive enough to know that, oh, that's just a deer or something watching me, or no, that's a predator watching me. I need to pay attention. I can do that. And most of the
yeah,
time we're in my research area, if we're away from camp and away from roads walking around, they're watching you the whole time. You can feel it. And
yeah,
occasionally when it gets too intense, then I turn my camera on and go, something over there is watching me. And I'm looking for something. Maybe that's it. Zoom in on it just in case. Screen is tiny, can't see what it is. I don't care. Zoom in on it anyway. Or, I
yeah,
think something's behind me. Turn around, take a quick scan of the camera, turn back again. And then when I show the video, Bama Bigfoot goes, hey, there's a 12-foot Sasquatch with the head the size of a beach ball about 30 feet behind you. And I'm like, thanks. I wanted more PTSD this week. You just gave me my full supply.
yeah. No kidding.
But that's
Yeah,
what's happening
just
with me.
that
Most
sense.
of the time, I'm not actually seeing them. I'm sensing that they're there, that something's watching me. So I'm just like camera scanning the area, and that looks odd. Is that normal? Just zoom in on it. Or something's behind me. Just in case I die, I'll have video of what it was behind me that killed me.
No kidding. Yeah, yeah. We all have a gut. They say you got to, it's a good thing to follow your gut. But so Duke, I'll tell you about what happened to us. This was 2017. We do this hunting trip every year, same spot. But it's a couple spots within probably, let's say, a half mile from each other. It's this big long valley that runs up there on the Washington side off of Highway 57. So it's kind of parallel to Priest Lake on the Washington side. And I got to say, 2 years before this happened, my brother-in-law Chris came over from Idaho to hang out with us because we do a week-long hunting camp. We'll take a whole week off work. We'll go there on a Saturday, come home the following Friday or Saturday. So we're there for a full week. And I think that's kind of the key in a lot of this stuff, like your trips where you do a week. You got to be there a little while because a lot of times if you're only there a night or two, you're not. It's just there's not enough time. And I think also sometimes they get cranky that you're there and they'll let you know. But so I think that's what happened to us. I don't know what we did, Duke, but they were really pissed off at us. We set up our camp. Oh, I got to say, so that 2 years prior, Chris had come up from Idaho just to hang out with us, camp with us for a couple days. And Rob and I had went out and hunted. Chris didn't have a Washington tag, so he couldn't hunt there. Rob and I went out and hunted. Came back. Chris had built a fire, built a firewall and stuff. He's kind of a bushcraft guy. And right when we got back, Chris goes, guys, there's something going on out here in this field. It was dark, by the way. We came back after dark after we were hunting. Right. And he goes, I've been hearing voices out in the field there. It's a long valley with the field that runs through it. I've been hearing these weird, creepy, it sounds like an old lady in the field or something. We're like, what? What are you talking about? And we never heard it. It had already stopped and stuff. But that was just one thing I thought I mentioned in this same spot. So he heard some kind of talking. He said it sounded like an old lady talking.
Wow.
Fast forward a couple of years to 2017. We set up camp. I probably did some knocks, Duke, when we first got there, to be honest with you. And maybe that's what pissed them off. I kind of start off our trips that way because you just never know. You might get a response right away, right? And nothing happened. Nothing happened that night. We got up early, went hunting the next morning. We get up early every morning before light, so you can get out to your spot. You try to get out there before light. And that day we'd come back for lunch about midday. that second day we were there. And we're pulling in the entrance of our camp there, and there's a tree right across the entrance of where we just left, 6 hours earlier or whatever. And it was about a sapling probably, I don't know, 4 inches, maybe 5 inches diameter. And it was just placed across the entrance to our camp with a giant root ball on it. And I sent you those pictures so your viewers can see that. And we stopped my side-by-side immediately and jumped out, and Rob's like, that wasn't there when we left. I go, no, it wasn't. We would have drove right over it, And so we parked, got out, we were looking at it, just kind of like, what? This is weird. And I picked the tree up. Rob took some pictures. When I picked the tree up, it's probably a good, 12, 13 feet high, this sapling. And I picked it up and all the dirt fell off right there,
Huh.
And so it dawned on me that whatever brought that there actually picked it up, carried it in there, and set it down. Because if it was to be drug in there, there would have been dirt drag marks. There would have been a dirt trail. Yeah. And there wasn't, because when I picked it up, there's a picture of that, all the dirt's falling off, you can see it. And you'll see how big that root ball was. And I always tell people, think back to when you're in your yard and you got a stubborn big old weed or even a stubborn little sapling you try to pull out of the ground with your hands, and it just rips your hands apart and you can't, this thing, the strength it would take to pull something like this out of the ground would be superhuman. I mean, there's no way. And when you see the pictures, I think you'll realize what I'm talking about. And so we looked for about 30 minutes on both tree lines that parallel our little path to get in there, and could never find a hole or the source or anywhere where that tree came from. So that was the first thing that happened. It was weird, but it was almost kind of comical because I thought to myself, well, that's not going to keep us out of here. It was laying across. Maybe it was just a message.
More like a joke than anything.
Almost comical, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're thinking, we're like, what in the hell? This is weird. And there's no other people up there, by the way. I got to say that. No other cars, no other hunters at this particular time. And so we kind of just, I don't know, we just said, well, what do you do? That was pretty damn weird. Put it off the side, took pictures, went out hunting. I think that second evening is when we started hearing the moans. We started hearing moans across the field. That's all the way I can describe it. Sounded like moans. And from there, we started hearing distant knocks out in the field, way kind of far away, just knock, knock. And then we'd hear one back here somewhere, And I kind of had an idea what it was because this is well into when I'm doing this. But we're hunting, so I wasn't focused on that. I never expected this to happen because it never really has happened when I'm hunting. So we went to bed that night, heard a couple knocks off in the distance. Nothing crazy. It wasn't crazy yet. We got up early, went out hunting again. We stayed out all day that third day. We didn't come back for lunch. So we came back after night the third day. So the third night, we pulled down that entrance again, just like we did that day before. And immediately to my left, we're in camp now. It's kind of a long entrance you got to ride your quad into. Immediately to my left, I believe Rob spotted. He goes, Nate, look at that giant tree. This big old tree, Duke, must have been 25, 30 feet. Fresh green pine pushed over right, almost hit our camp table. And you'll see that in those pictures. You'll see that in those pictures too. And so I immediately hit it with my flashlight, and Rob started snapping pictures with his phone, which are some pretty cool pictures. It's a big old tree. And we're like, you got to be kidding me. So this is like the second tree that's been pushed over or pulled up. we looked at it. I'm a little freaked out now because this tree's big and our tent's not far away. We have a big canvas hunting tent. Obviously something could push something right on top of our tent and probably kill us if they wanted to. But this was over across from our camp table. Took some pictures. So we went to bed, started hearing the knocks. The knocks started getting louder. They started getting closer and louder. And I got to say, I was getting a little nervous at this point because I'd never quite experienced this type of activity where it was one thing after another like that. And so we got up early the next morning, went over to that tree and took some great pictures. You'll see where the roots were pulled right out of the ground. It was snapped. No wind, no storms, nothing. Okay.
Right.
Weather was calm. You'll see where this tree is probably, the base of it's like that. And the tree roots were just ripped. It was ripped right from the ground, pushed over. You'll be able to see it real good in the pictures. And again, you think about the force, I don't even know if you could do that with a truck. I don't know if you could even hit it with a car. Maybe fast enough you could. But so we put up some game cams. We put one, or no, I gotta back up, Duke. We had the game cams up right before that tree went over because I remember thinking, hey, that the game cam should have caught that tree because it was kind of in that area. Right. And it kind of fell in front of. So Rob went that morning and we remembered we had the cams up. We didn't remember that night because we were kind of rattled and things were going on. And so the next morning he goes, hey, I'm going to check the game cam. So he walked over to the game cam, which was real close to where that tree was pushed over. And he goes, I remember him walking up to it. I was kind of standing back. And I'll never forget this. He goes, Nate. I'm like, what? He goes, you're not going to believe this. I go, what? There was a dead moth placed over the eye of the camera. So,
of course, they don't know what cameras are.
Yeah, dead moth placed right over the camera, stuck to it, the lens of the camera.
Yeah.
And we got some pictures, but we didn't get the tree falling. The moth was in front of the lens, and we got some blurry pictures, and that's about it. But we did have one behind the tent too, and I'll circle back to this because something happens behind the tent. So let's see, we're about 3 days in, and I'm pretty nervous at this point, and that's when the knocks got crazy, Duke. I'm talking like right behind our tent at night, like loud, like waking us up, and multiple nights we're like, I'm like, Rob, wake up. He's like, Nate, wake up. We're waking each other up, so we're really not getting a lot of good sleep because we're waking up a lot. And there was a couple times there where we'd say, okay, we got to get out of the tent. We got to see what's going on here. The knocks are like right behind our tent and they're loud. So we kind of did the lethal weapon, 1, 2, 3, zip up the tent, run out with our pistols around the tent like that, take a side. And Duke, we never saw anything. We never heard anything run away. And we knew they were close because it was so loud. And that's the thing that freaked me out is because I couldn't, at first, you're first thinking bear early on. But bears don't knock on trees, obviously. No. But you hear stuff and you're thinking, it's kind of what your mind goes to, especially up there because there are grizzlies up there. And to me, a mountain grizzly is way scarier than a Sasquatch. I don't want to run into one of those. Yep. And so anyways, these knocks were waking up multiple times. I want to say it was about the 5th night, I think. I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I heard a growl. I mean, a deep, really loud growl, right? And it was my corner of the tent, like behind my head where I was. I was on one side, he was on the other side. I could try to do the growl, but it wouldn't do it justice. It was really deep, low, and loud. And I woke up, but at this point, I thought I might have dreamed it, because I was kind of sleeping. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to lay here and see what happens. It happened again, loud again. And so I woke up Rob, like, Rob, wake up. There's growls outside the tent. And he woke up. It happened 2 more times. So it happened 4 times. And he was able to hear it too. I didn't, unfortunately. See, here's the thing, Duke. I didn't have my recorders and stuff because we were hunting. Right. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for this at all. Yeah. I mean, it was really crazy. And so that was another where we said we threw on our clothes. It probably took us a minute to like get our senses, grab our gun, get my pants on, and we ran out of the tent again. Nothing, man. And there was something right outside the tent growling at my head, and it was close and it was loud, and didn't see anything. and the ground around there was that real hard packed dirt. So we did look for some prints. I never did see prints. So this is where I kind of go to the special abilities. They have some way of hiding from us and disappearing and playing tricks on us like that. And long story short, the knocks got even louder. It was so intense that we'd had those last couple nights there, Duke. We didn't get any sleep, man. We were a wreck by I don't know, 5-6 nights in or whatever it was. No sleep. And so after the growl was kind of the thing that really made me think maybe we better leave because of the intensity of it. And it's a growl, right? Like that's kind of a warning to me.
Yeah.
And so the next morning we got up and I said, hey, Rob, we got to talk about this. And what are we going to do? I think we had one more night as far as what we'd planned. And I go, we're either going to stick it out and see what happens tonight. And maybe it's worse. I mean, who knows? I don't know. And or either that or we can go to the cabin, my father-in-law's place at Priest, and get a good night's sleep because we were so tired and stressed out. And we decided to leave and go get a good night's sleep at the cabin and then come back the next day and pack up camp and go home. And
Right.
But Rob did a good idea before we left that next day. He turned his lantern on, low setting, and put it inside the tent. And we zipped up the tent tight. And we zipped it up tight every day because there was mice in camp. We didn't want them getting in our tent.
Right.
And we zipped up the tent real tight. Rob left his lantern on in the tent. We went to the cabin. This must have been later afternoon to get some sleep. Got a good night's sleep finally. Woke up the next day, came back, and the tent was zipped up about this far. So they were there that night circling our tent, we think, saw the lantern, and who knows what else they did. But
Probably made a bunch of noise, didn't get a reaction, didn't hear anything, and went, I don't think they're in there. Check it out.
And that's where I wish I would have had my recorders with me because I could have left one on. Who knows what we could have.
Yeah, right in the tent, aimed at the zipper for when they unzip it and look in.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm kind of grateful or fortunate that I was able to document some of that stuff. But honestly, Duke, it was by the 5th or 6th night we were, and we're tough guys. I mean, we're well armed, outdoorsmen, hunters, and we didn't want to be there. You could feel the pressure building every day. It got worse every day and every night until it was so intense. They're like, okay, we're throwing in the towel. And we did. I hate to say it, but we did.
I can't blame you. The one thing about them pushing trees down and stuff, I got to mention this because one of my friends just told me about this. It's actually somebody used to be my roommate here about 6-7 years ago, and their dad works for forestry. And at the time they met me, they didn't believe in Bigfoot. And now that they know what to look for, they 100% believe in Bigfoot. And they were up at the end of this one road they don't usually go to. They found this really hidden valley up there that had all these mushrooms in. They went mushroom picking. And on the way back, they couldn't get back out again because somehow a 2.5-foot diameter tree fell across the road. He suspected what did it, so he went up to look where the tree had fallen down, and he found the tracks of 2 individuals, probably 18 or 19 inches, that had pushed the tree over. Yep. Here's the problem. They're about 17 miles up this 1-lane dirt road. They don't have a chainsaw. So they had to abandon the car, walk 3 miles from there down to where their camp was, and just tough it out for 2 days until somebody randomly came up the road and they could flag them down and go, do you have a chainsaw? Our car's trapped about 3 miles that way. We can't get it out. And the 2 nights that they were there in between, there was lots of activity by camp. It was not pleasant.
Oh, I'll bet. That's a story. Yeah, always have a chainsaw. That's a good lesson right there.
Yep.
Always have a chainsaw.
And what's scarier than them pushing down a tree to stop you from going in a road? Pushing down a tree after you're in there so you can't get back out.
Yeah, that's even worse. So But Duke, like I said, that was the experience that changed me as far as my line of thinking of that there's a lot more to these things than, you know, most people think, right? They have these abilities to mess with cameras. We know how they mess with cameras. Oh, by the way, that game cam, the one behind the tent I told you about, took milky white ghostly pictures. And we were getting pictures of squirrels and stuff on it like 2 days before or whatever.
Right.
And after that growl happened, it just took like, you know, you see those weird ghost pictures on TV. It looked like that, like milky white, kind of misty white. And so it didn't get whatever growled at me, and it should have, because it was on a tree behind the tent, which seemed to be in, you know, where the growl would have been in between the tent and that tree. So go figure. I think they have a way of messing with cameras.
Well, Kelly Shaw, when he was out camping with Survivor Man Les Stroud, he got growled at, but he didn't hear it. He was soundly sleeping, and when he got up in the morning, Les and his son said, "Hey, there was something over there growling at your tent last night. We could hear it." He's like, "What?" You know? So he snores. He slept right through it. So he went and checked his game cam, and yeah, sure enough, there was a mountain lion about 20 feet from his tent growling at him, because apparently, like, his snoring was really loud.
Yeah.
And it was growling at his snoring.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's when it's a growl, you can sometimes explain that off as a predator, whatever, a bear, a cougar, or a wolf maybe. But the tree,
Well, in this case, they know
loud,
what it is, but keep in mind, it wasn't loud enough to wake his ass up.
Yeah.
If it had been a Bigfoot growling at him, he would have heard it and woke up.
Yeah, you can almost feel it. You can almost feel
Yeah.
it, like the vibration and everything. But yeah, crazy. So that kind of changed me as far as my line of thinking. There's, like I said, a lot more to the abilities that they have. And maybe that's one of the reasons why they're covering all this up. You know, they know they have these abilities. Well, you hear about them sneaking into military facilities through razor wire and getting on one side of a fence. And so I don't know. There's a lot of, I'm buddies with Rich Germeau. You probably know who Rich Germeau is. He's co-founder of the Olympic Project, involved in Melba's study and stuff. And Rich, boy, I've got to talk to him hours. He used to do a lot of stuff with game cams. In fact, he got saliva off a game cam. That was one of the samples that was submitted to Melba's study. And he told me he got to a point where he just gave up with the cameras, because they'd turn them 360, and he did catch like an arm, and he caught a little bit of one up somewhere when he was still with the Olympic Project. I think those are still online, but he just got super frustrated using cameras, because they'd come in and wreck them and stuff and turn them around and break them, and they'd be off the tree, stuff like that. So
the only person I know that's having any success doing that is the Falk monster hunter, William Lunsford. But they're being very, very sneaky. They're having like multiple game cams on one spot. And they even had one where the little sucker had put a piece of bark right in front of the lens on one, and then tried to reach around this log and grab the Snicker bar. Well, there was another camera over there that caught him.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Like a camera trap. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple camera traps. That's how they're doing it. And then they got plot watchers that are going 24/7 too. If anything walks in front, ping, 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 3 a.m. Wait, let me see what's happening.
Well, Rich was telling me he used to put like pantyhose over them and put like sticks and twigs in them, and really camouflage them really good, but they'd still find them. So I think there's something to that. They can see the light. What is
infrared? Yeah, for sure.
Infrared.
There's other ways that they can, like a lot of the animals can see the infrared, so that's not so spectacular and amazing that they've got that ability. But the other thing is those cameras smell. They smell like plastic and chemicals, and some of them actually make a sound when they go off. And that's one thing that William and a few of the other people that have had the game cam thing going for a while have noticed, that occasionally you get these pictures of nothing. But if you look close enough, there's actually an object flying through the air in front of the camera that set it off. And then you'll get like a blank picture. So what they're doing is they're throwing something in front and seeing what the return time is from when it goes off and resets until it'll do something again. And if they're fast enough, they can walk right in front of that cam before it even gets them.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's almost like a test. Yeah.
Yeah. They're seeing exactly what the reset time is, how fast it does anything. Yep. Yeah. William's got a picture of some, I don't know, it looks like about the size of a golf ball, and it's gold. we don't know what the hell it is, but they threw it right in front of the game cam. It's sitting suspended in midair. That's what set the game cam off.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Another thing I sent you, Duke, is some pictures of some symbols. We call them asterisk symbols. I don't know if you've seen those, but it's basically a couple pieces of sticks like this. It looks like a tic-tac-toe,
Yeah.
but more like.
We showed about a four-story tall one right across the river from my camp in episode 129, part 3.
Okay. So these ones we found are smaller. The one I found was probably, I don't know, 3-4 feet tall, but they both have sticks going through the middle of them. And we did some research, and Justin Decker, I don't know if you know Justin, he was in touch with some First Nations people, and they told him that asterisk symbol is kind of a common one. And I've heard other people describe it in other encounters and stuff, but that stick that runs through the middle of that thing supposedly points to a water source or medicinal plants or an important area for them, kind of a marker. And the pictures I sent you, the one we found was up in that North Fork, about 4 miles in, kind of where that guy got chased out. And the other picture I sent you that looks the same is from Rich Jermeau and Tobe Johnson over on the Olympic Peninsula. And they were found about a week apart from each other. We didn't even know it at the time. It's kind of a long story, but check out those pictures. They're pretty cool. Chances 300 miles apart we find the same symbol kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you know what we found too, Duke, is there's a lot of subtle things that where you put 2 and 2 together, and they do little subtle stuff once in a while, like the symbols being found within a week of each other, 300 miles apart in 2 different states. I mean, what are the chances of that? And Rich and I had been talking on the phone about it and stuff. I know that's a stretch, but it's just weird. And, something happened last year in the same hunting camp I was telling you about the story. My son said he heard a couple knocks in the distance. Nothing really happened. It was nothing dramatic. But one night, about 3 nights in, my buddy got this privacy tent. It's like a 7-foot nylon tent. You put your bucket in there, you do your business in there, you have some privacy. It's one of those real light nylon things. So the wind could blow it over, an animal could knock it over. We woke up one morning during that week. This was last year, and that tent was on its side, and there was no wind. And the thing weird about that wouldn't be weird if that's all it was. We walked over to it, and there was a rusted out steel, rusty, like a soup can or something, placed right on top of the side of the tent. So the tent was pushed over. The can was placed right on top of the side of the tent. And this can looked like it had been pulled out of the ground somewhere. It had been there for years, all rusted out with holes. And I kind of put 2 and 2 together. The night before, we'd pulled in, we always throw our cans in the back of the pickup truck, or pop cans, beer cans, whatever.
Right.
And we got back that night late, and we didn't, we always clean out the back of the truck. And we didn't take the time to put it in bags and stuff. Of course, we always clean up before we leave. We're going to do it in the morning. We threw all the cans and stuff on the ground. Made a mess, And I looked at the tent with the can. I don't know. I immediately put the connection there. That was, you get stuff like that. You get stuff like that.
Well,
So-
we think in the area that we're in that they're observing what we're doing in the woods all the time, which kind of makes sense. But one thing that we started noticing is, part of our routine is there's hardly ever been any humans up in this area. It's so rare you find any garbage out in the woods. And when we do, pull it out of the ground, throw it in your backpack, haul it back to camp, pour it out, get rid of it. And I've had two different times now where I'm walking along and, oh, there's an old beer can. I bet that's been in the ground for 30 years. And I pick it up and start walking off and I hear wood knock.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell? Way off in the distance. Yeah. So did I pick up the garbage? Knock. Good job.
Yeah. Yep. No, you're right. You're right.
So yeah, they're observing you all the time. And I think part of the problem with people not being as far along and doing research with these guys is what they actually are, is they keep underestimating how smart they are. I assume they're just as smart as we are. They just don't have any technology training. They're just as smart as anybody else that lived out in the woods their whole life, right? Which could be very, very smart.
Right. Yeah. And then you throw in the special abilities and boy, you got something there.
Yeah, you got something that we just don't have much of a chance with.
I'll mention too, Duke, I sent you some photos of some prints, and I'm just mentioning it if you want to put those in the show.
We'll throw them in here.
That way there's a reference to them. I was just hunting. Again, hunting, this was years ago. Wasn't even thinking about Bigfoot at the time. And I stumbled upon this print. It's probably the best print I've ever found. You'll see all the toes. It's about a 17-inch print.
Nice.
My foot's next to it. I'm a size 9. You'll see it. It's real obvious, but I just thought I'd mention that so you could throw it in the show there.
First of all, all of those structures are common all over the continent and in other parts of the world. I photographed an asterisk structure up in my area that looks almost identical to one that Dr. Igor Burtsev photographed in Siberia. They make the same things all over the place. X's, arches, teepees, asterisk structures. They mean something to them. And then there's the random things they make where it's like they're trying to herd animals in a certain direction, or they make a wall structure because they don't want you to go through there. Or they just do tons of carry in and knockdown to make an area so impassable, nothing in its right mind wants to go in there, which makes us want to go in there because we know that's where they have a giant structure. And every time that's where they have a giant structure, just far enough in where you can't see it from the beginning of the big pile. But you get far enough in and it's like, oh, 5-story teepee. Well, what do you know?
Yeah, no kidding. Yep. Yeah, a lot of that stuff definitely has meaning, and like you said, it's if they have their own language, which they do, all that stuff means something to them. So it's pretty interesting.
I've had other. I think it was a native that was telling me that the asterisk structure is actually a marker for the clan or the family, and the number of logs in it indicates the number of individuals in the family.
Okay.
And then apparently on the East Coast, they'll do something similar with like a pile. It isn't even an asterisk. It's like a pile of sticks that'll just be like randomly there. And you'd be like, somebody piled this up. Who the hell was out here in the middle of nowhere making a pile of sticks for no reason? And apparently that's what it is.
I've seen that too, Duke. Yeah, I've seen that. And we've also found what, I don't know if I called it a bed, but I don't think it was really a bed. It was maybe they laid on it or something, but it was some soft cedar limbs and some other tree limbs all kind of set together. I mean, you could just see it was just out of the ordinary. I mean, a bear doesn't do that. No. Other animals don't do that. So stuff like that. And then, even the bigger structures, like we were talking about the X structures and stuff, obviously nature has a way of blowing trees down and all that normal stuff. But when you look at them, always look for, for instance, like if a tree was pulled down to get a tree in and then it curves and another tree is pulled back, if it's woven, a tree doesn't fall like that, right? Yeah. So there's things to look for. And you look to see where the source, if you find bigger trees like this and they're making a structure, first of all, you see if they're attached to the ground. Okay, if they're not, you look around and you try to find where they came from. And if there's no stumps around, sometimes you'll go a little bit further, like maybe 20, 30, 40 yards, and you'll find a where it's broke off, but there's nothing there, but it's over there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So that you gotta use common sense. For people that are going out, you got to use common sense, and you got to try to debunk it first. And if it doesn't look like something nature could have done like that, if it's unexplainable,
just got to spend some time sitting there looking at it and trying to figure out if there's a logical explanation for it.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we found, there's one hillside where the kids like to play all the time, so they've made kind of a jungle gym out of it. And I'm going through there and I'm going, okay, this stuff is new. This wasn't here last year. This stuff has all been pushed over because windstorms don't push everything in different directions. Tends to go in the direction the wind is blowing, not randomly in every direction. And I'm over there and I'm like, okay, look at this right here. We got two of them on the ground. We got one of them going this way. We got one of them going this way. And on top, there's an old dead tree with no root system. There's no stump or hole in the ground down there. What hauled the whole tree in and placed it on top?
Right. And some of these trees we're talking about, Duke, even though they're only this big around, that's a heavy heavy tree. When you think of how long that thing is, there's a lot of weight to those. So, could it be hoaxed? I guess if you had a bunch of real strong guys, but that's the kind of stuff you want to look for. And we find a lot of that stuff, a lot of structures, a lot of symbols.
I'll reference Richard Williams, who's over there from the same area that you live in. He was over here in my neck of the woods going up the pass, and he turns to his left and he goes, holy frickin' bleep, is that an X structure? It's like 5 stories high. It's on an embankment on the far side of the river. There's no roads on the far side of the river. So no heavy equipment could have done this. So he pulls over, parks, wades across the river, waist deep, icy water, goes up the 10-foot rock embankment to get up on top, and smartly brought his camera with and started taking pictures. Both sides of that X structure were an entire lodgepole pine that had all the bark and branches ripped off of it. Neither one was from there. They were placed there. Neither one had a root ball or a stump. You could see where they had been placed on the ground. One of them was in a tree had fallen and it had a Y, and they put it right in the middle of there so it couldn't skid. And then the other one was leaning against that, holding them in place. Well, eventually it fell down, but in the meantime, I took that picture and I went around and asked local loggers, okay, you see these 2 lodgepole pines here? What do they weigh? They all gave me the same estimate. Each side weighs about 6,000 pounds, 3 tons. What can pick up 3 tons and go for a walk with it?
Exactly.
And that was not natural.
No.
Neither tree was from there. No stump, no hole in the ground. Both of them had placed in there. Exactly the same size trees. Bark ripped completely off both trees. Totally not natural. Yep. And some of the big trees around it, way up above, all the bark had also been ripped off. Like somebody was having fun climbing up and down and tore a bunch of the bark off while somebody else was there putting the X structure together.
Probably good possibility, yeah. So I think I sent you some more pictures of just our group and stuff, so you can throw and our logo and all that stuff, so you can throw that up.
Well, I have the logo right at the beginning.
Cool. Yeah, Duke, I got to tell you, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. I've been listening to you for years. Say going back 10 years ago when I started doing my research online, before I actually ever went out, I found your show, and I remember your shows you used to do with Wes, the Conspiracy Corner shows, and man, I've listened to a lot of those over the years. So I just appreciate you having me on. Yeah,
thanks, brother.
It goes back a ways. So.
Well, back in the olden days, I was having a lot of fun being on Sasquatch Chronicles with Wes. I think I can guarantee I was on that show more times than any other guest. A lot.
I believe.
And then we did the Renegades podcast and the Conspiracy Corner series and a bunch of other stuff. We're the dynamic duo of weird Bigfoot stuff a few years ago.
Those are some great shows, yeah. So I just want to let you know that I've been watching it for a lot of years, and so yeah, I just really appreciate you having me on.
Well, thanks, buddy. And I'm glad that you're willing to come on the show and tell everybody about what's going on over there in your neck of the woods. There's enough Bigfoot researchers out there now that it's hard for the public to really keep track of everyone. And as usual, there's a lot of them that are duds. And so
Yeah.
I'd like to draw the public's attention to the ones that are legit, whether they have a huge channel or a tiny one or no channel.
Sure.
Anybody that's out there in the field that's legit and doing good research, that's what my channel's here for. Let people know that they're there.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, I got to give some credit to my son, Corey. He's actually our founder. It was his idea to start the group. The idea behind the group was honestly just to have a place where people could come forward and give reports and encounters to us. And maybe down the road, we could investigate those areas with permission or whatever.
Right.
But just people to come forward. You know this, Duke. There's so many people out there, and I still run into them today. People I haven't seen for years. And if I know they're a hunter or an outdoorsman for years and years, I'll just ask the question. I don't say Bigfoot. I'll just say, hey, I got to ask you a weird question. Okay, what? Has anything weird in the woods ever happened? You ever heard anything weird or seen anything weird? And you look them in the eye, and you'd be surprised. A lot of people want to open up and tell you what they saw or what they experienced, but they're afraid. There's still that stigma, and they're afraid to come forward. And so I've always said, for as many encounters that we know of, Duke, I think there's just as many that we don't know of.
No, there's way more that we don't know of. I'd say there's out of 10 reports or encounters, there's only one that's getting reported. The majority.
So think about
reported.
Think about those numbers.
Yeah.
And so that's really a shame. So, it's all those people out there that are holding it in. I got to tell you real quick. I have a friend. He's a friend of the family. He's an older guy, older than me. We met. They live at the lake. Their next door neighbors up the lake. Two summers ago, we were having dinner with him. Had a couple drinks. Super good guy. He's a well-known guy. People know he's a businessman here in our local area. A lot of people would know him. I'm not going to say his name. We were having drinks at dinner. Somehow Bigfoot came up. Imagine that. I told him we had our trip. It was the trip we go on every year. I told him, hey, well, he's like, what do you got going on? Oh, we're going to do this trip. So he kind of, I could tell he was interested in it. So he was prodding a little bit. I told him more details about it. And then he goes, I was telling him some of my experiences, right? Like we're doing here, Duke. And we're really close to each other at the table. I'm sitting right next to him. And he looks at me in the eye and he goes, Nate, he had to stop me. He goes, I saw one and I've never told anybody. And he proceeded to tell me that he was driving. He was either coming from Seattle or going to Seattle over Snoqualmie Pass. And there was a bridge area of the highway there somewhere. I don't know exactly where it was at. It was late at night, dark. And he could see this thing in his headlights to his right. And he slowed the car way down because he thought it was a person on the highway. And he got close enough where he could see its face, Duke. He said it had a black skin face, big, huge eyes. And he said it had this look of, oh, shit. And it had nowhere. Sorry about the language.
No problem.
It had nowhere to go. It was stuck on this bridge area. And it was just doing this kind of a thing. And Dave just stopped the car and was just looking at it. He said he never told his family or anything. He told me because I was talking to him about it. But that's just an example. And I have his report without his name on our page. But he was looking face to face real close at this thing. And when someone tells you that, man, it's so cool.
Yeah.
They've never told anybody, but you just open that window for them where they trust you enough to tell you. So I do that a lot, and I get people coming forward. Not all the time, just once in a while, but
I hardly ever do that. And the one time that I did, we had such a we're in downtown Missoula. Missoula's not gigantic; its population 75,000, but we're in downtown on the main street in the middle of downtown Missoula. And I'm walking out of a grocery store, a little convenience store with one of my friends, and somehow we start talking about Bigfoot. So we're standing right on the sidewalk, telling Bigfoot's story, and this guy comes randomly walking by and stops. And he waits for us to finish the story, and he goes, so you seen a Sasquatch? Yeah. Oh, I saw one over here, and he starts telling his story. We don't even know this guy. And while he's standing there telling us the story, two more people come walking over. Hey, are you guys talking about Sasquatch stories? I seen one over in such. We were there for like almost 45 minutes, and it's sort of like we need to quit talking about Sasquatch and go, because otherwise more people are going to show up, and we're never going to get anything done today.
You know what? That's it, though. People want to tell stories, but a lot of them are scared to come forward because they don't want to be ridiculed, and there is still that kind of stigma around the subject. So, I mean, it's great. I want people to come forward. The people need to know about their stories and encounters. And man, I think we learn more from people that have had the encounters. That's where we gain the knowledge.
Yeah.
As far as things happen, things they see, you hear about people saying,
patterning their behavior, because a lot of it's going to be the same, and then you can figure out what's normal behavior that you can expect and what's really weird out there behavior that they hardly ever do, because you've got enough examples of encounters to figure it out.
Yeah. And we, I don't know how much time we got left, Duke, but we were up at Sullivan Creek. I'll tell one more quick story and then we'll see where we're at. But
hey, that's my creek.
So we go to, yeah, exactly. So there's a place called Sullivan Lake, Washington. You may have heard of it. It's up north there. They did a documentary. Stephen Major and his group did a documentary up there. And one of our members was in that documentary, Aaron West, by the way.
Cool.
You can look that. But
yeah,
we were up
Steven.
there. Yeah, he's a character. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
We're up there at the Sullivan Creek one year, and we've been there quite a few times. There's a lot of activity up there, a lot of sightings, that kind of thing. And we rolled. We'd been out all night. Me and my son. It was just me and my son. We rolled out of the tent from a nap because we'd been out all night. We took a nap. I think it must have been midday, right? We still had a little fire burning. We were in the tent, in our own tent, sleeping. All of a sudden, we both woke up. We heard this truck pull up in car doors, and we're like, "Oh shit! Who's in our camp?" You just kind of wonder when you're way up in the middle of nowhere. Well, we rolled out of the tent. It was two Forest Service guys, and they were just checking because it's a grizzly recovery area up there. They were checking to make sure we had food put away and all that, and they were really nice guys. And so somewhere along that conversation, my son Corey, he just out of the blue, man, he took me off guard. He goes, "Hey, you guys ever seen Bigfoot?" I'm like, "Oh, you might as well just cut right to the chase, right?"
Yeah.
And there was one older guy, really nice fella, and he had a really young kid with him, like maybe a explorer type, kid learning. He must have been 19, 20. And the guy looked at my son. He goes, "Well, as a matter of fact, I guess I can tell this story now because my partner retired. He promised me never to tell it, but they were driving on an old road, a gated road somewhere, doing whatever they do. And his partner was driving. This guy we were talking to was in the passenger seat with his paperwork and everything. And he said that all of a sudden his buddy hit the brakes, and it was like one of those things like that.
Yeah.
And they're way back in the middle of nowhere. And the guy looked up and looked at his buddy and said, "What's wrong?" And his partner was like this, just white faced. He said he looked terrified, his partner. And he goes, "I just saw a Bigfoot." And it just walked right in front of him. But this other guy that we were talking to was looking down, didn't see it. And he actually saw the bushes moving. It had just walked into the thick brush. He could see some stuff moving, but he didn't see it. Right?
Oh, God.
And the guy we were talking to said, "Oh, it was a bear. You had to have seen a bear." He's like, "It wasn't a bear. I just saw a Bigfoot." And he goes, "You better not ever tell anybody." He's worried about getting ridiculed or whatever, teased or whatever. And he goes, "Okay, I won't. But this guy retired. So now he says he can tell the story." So you never know what you're going to get out there. You never know. Kind of a fun little story. But.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think there's more of them that know about it and have seen them and stuff. And they're just like, A, they don't want to get ridiculed. B, they don't want to lose their job.
Yeah.
And, what's the big motivation for coming forward? Unless there's like a lot of weird stuff going on where people are getting hurt or disappearing or something. They're not going to really tell anybody about it because they don't want to panic people, and they're just going to get ridiculed and maybe fired. So,
True. And I think they're told not to talk about it too, but yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, and like I said, my son started the group, and it's something we can do together, father, son, and stuff that we'll never forget. And hey, if I'm still healthy, my son hasn't had any kids yet. He's 28 now. If we get a grandchild, maybe we can take them too, and think all the stories we'll have, for the grandkids someday, right?
Yeah, yeah. Up in my research area, we ran into a ranger up there twice now. It was the same guy both times, and I remember once we asked him, "How big of an area do you have to patrol? You got a partner?" And like, "Yeah, but he ain't around here most of the time. He's doing a little bit different area." "Well, how big is your area?" "Oh, it's only 95,000 acres."
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he ain't gonna pop up very often if that's how big
Yeah.
of one guy. 95
Yeah. No.
pounds.
Yeah. You don't. Yeah. You don't really run into them a lot, honestly. But yeah, they can't. And these days they're so short staffed. It seems like just like everyone else, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, to get
But
qualified people too, you know, he was picking on the young guy that he's got is like Barney Fife, and he wears a man bun, and he won't let him carry a gun with any rounds in it because he doesn't trust him.
yeah. No kidding.
Which could have something to do with Bigfoot and or grizzly attacks. You don't give Barney Fife a pistol because he'll probably just irritate it, and then he'll get killed.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, our research area is getting a little bit more dangerous now because the moose are making a comeback, and you know those big dumbass bulldozers. You got to give them wide berth. Pay attention to what they're doing. Go watch the end of the last episode. We turned out we're coming out of the pass from the research area. And, oh, let's stop and film the moose. Hey, there's a big tree structure on the far side where those moose are. I'm going to go recklessly risk my life and go past them and film it.
Yeah. No, those moose are dangerous, man. They're big creatures. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah! No,
They don't move for you. You move for them, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem with them is that their sensory capability is not all that great. Their eyesight doesn't work that well. And if they can't smell you and know you're a human, they see something move, they default to charge and stomp it.
Right. Oh man, I've seen that. That's brutal. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that.
You know, just picture something considerably bigger than a horse with a bulldozer blade on its head coming at you.
And hooves this big.
Yeah,
Sharp
stomp,
hooves.
stomp.
Yeah. No, I've been on a couple moose hunts and we've harvested a couple. I tried to pick up one quarter of a bull, and the minute I got it where it was just going to go off the ground, I was like, I just about threw out my back. It's so much animal. We had to winch it into a trailer. It's crazy.
Yeah.
When you get up on, they're big animals. So.
And I think that's part of the reason that when the Sasquatch are making these mega structures and they want to keep humans out specifically, they're pushing over all these trees and laying in all this deadfall and stuff. Because if you think about it, the humans most likely to walk through an area like that are hunters. And what's the last thing a hunter wants to do? Get a really big animal in the middle of several hundred yards of deadfall where they have to cut it up into little tiny pieces and pack them out one at a time. Takes forever. Most hunters look at that and go, I don't care what's in there. I'm not going in there. Because if I shoot it, I got to drag it out again.
That's 100% true. Yeah. So true. That's a good point.
I'm sure they think the same way too, even though it's easy for them. They pick it up, throw it over their shoulder. They're looking at us puny little humans going, he ain't going to walk all the way in there try to carry something. Humans are lazy. They can barely lift their legs up. Put some deadfall down. They'll never come in here.
Yeah. No kidding. That's a good point.
So that's a good thing to look for. Keep that in mind, all you Bigfoot researchers out there. If you want to find their mega structures, go find those suspicious looking parts of the woods where it looked like, hey, a windstorm hit this one specific area and nowhere else around it. And a lot of the trees are upside down and laying in opposite directions or don't have root systems. And you find them all woven together and bent around other trees and stuff. And you're like, that's totally not normal.
Duke, you're going to a conference here, leaving Wednesday, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, and this will be out before the conference. So in case anybody's over in the Nebraska area, we're over there where the Nebraska Bigfoot Museum is. They're putting on their annual conference. I'm going to be over there. Rob McCrae is going to be there. Ron Moorhead, Christie Sci-Fi, and a bunch of other people will all be over there for the weekend. Which, unfortunately, the same weekend that Dave Scott's having his thing in Vegas, and I can't be at two places at once. So, unfortunately, I won't be able to hang out with Dave.
If anybody's going to Vegas, I'll see you in Vegas, though. My son and Corey and I are going to meet Dave down there. I know Carter Bouchard will be there. I'm sure. I heard a rumor that George Knapp might be hosting something there while we're there. So, we'll see. Cool. But maybe I'll see some of the fans and some of the listeners down there, too.
I know Bigfoot Michigan Rob, who's secretly Rick from Paranormal Pawn Stars. He's going to be there.
Yeah. And I look forward to meeting some people and stuff down there. And my son's never been to Vegas, so it's going to be a hell of a trip for him.
Viva Las Vegas. Yep. And anybody that happens to be in the upper Midwest and can't make it over to Vegas, well, you can always show up to the Bigfoot conference and hang out with me and Ron Moorhead and Robin McRae and Christie Sci-Fi and all the other Bigfoot.
You guys love fun. That's going to be a fun trip.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a blast. I get to drive from there back again, so that'll be fun. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Well, I'll have my video camera with. I'll do a videography of the whole thing. Here's the trip over. Here's the conference. Here's some of the speakers doing their thing, and here's the trip back. And
that can be a show by itself. There.
Well, absolutely, it could be several shows. Plus, with my luck, I'll probably see something along the way and get it on video. Look at that Bigfoot just ran across the road. I'm gonna run into the woods and follow it because I'm insane.
That's funny.
I'm going to do the Kelly Shaw thing and run toward it because I have no common sense whatsoever. Not to pick on Kelly. I've done that too. William Lunsford has done it. I know different people that have done it. Look at Bigfoot. Quick, run toward it. Trying to film.
Yeah. Hey, that was cool. Kelly came on with you, Duke. He doesn't do a lot of shows.
No, it's really hard. I've been pestering him for over 3 years to get him on the show. And he said, well, I'll come back next winter and fill you in on what happened in the previous year. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, yeah, once a year to do an update. Yeah. That's super awesome, bud.
Yeah, that's great. He's I'd like to meet Kelly. We've talked a little bit online and stuff. Never met him in person. Love to meet the guy. I really like him. So.
Well, that was the first, when I recorded him for that show, was the first time we ever actually talked. We've been communicating online for years, and he was working on the same groups and stuff, but we had never actually talked before, you know.
Yeah.
So that was just a total blast. And Kelly is real as day is long, and he is friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
And has more balls than common sense, like most good Bigfoot researchers.
Yeah, I can see that. Good guy for sure.
Yeah, he was talking about that one part where they had that one making noise right out. They just stopped to eat a sandwich for lunch, and there's one just up in the wood line mangling a tree or something and making all kinds of noise. So Kelly reacts by putting his sandwich down, picking up the camera, jumping out the door, and running toward it. And, of course, Jenny goes, "You're not armed!" And he goes, "Grab something and follow me." He keeps running.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah,
she's the hired hitman backup that keeps Kelly safe while he's running.
You gotta have one, man. Yeah.
Well, Jenny's a blast too. I haven't had a chance to actually talk to her yet, but she's really good at tracking and stuff too. And she's the one that'll like, something's watching me, and then she'll be looking over here for a long time, and there's a squirrel on that branch that's watching me. That's what it is. She can feel the eyesight too, something watching. So handy skills. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, very handy. It's nice to know when something's watching you, especially if it's not a particularly friendly something. You really want to know that something's over there watching you.
Right. Well, yeah, cougars are scary too. You never hear them coming. They're so stealthy. We see a lot of cougar tracks and stuff up in our area, and wolf tracks and bear track. Yeah, it's predator central up there.
That's one thing that there's a distinct absence of in the area that we do our research. We have never found a predator track anywhere in that valley. There just aren't any. Somebody doesn't let them live there for some reason.
Yeah.
Find tons of Bigfoot tracks all over the place. Moose tracks, elk tracks, deer tracks, mountain goats, bighorn sheep. No wolf tracks, no bear tracks, no mountain lion tracks.
I did send you some audio, Duke. Take a listen to it, and if you want to play it, that's fine. I don't know what it is. There's wolves. You can hear some wolves, and then there's what we call the roar. It's like a scream or a roar at the end where these wolves were howling, and it was a lot closer and it was out of place. So
right on. We'll throw that in. We'll throw her in right here so people get a chance to hear it.
Yeah, let me know what you think. I'd take other opinions on. I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you it's weird and it was eerie and it's not something that you'd think you'd hear out there. So
Well,
yeah, take it for what.
there's animals out there that make some weird vocalizations, but generally they're smaller animals, so they're not really loud. Like foxes and stuff can make all kinds of weird ass noises, but they're not all that loud.
This
You know what I'm
thing
saying?
just like, yeah, I do. And this thing, it just almost shook you. It was,
Oh
and
God.
once you hear it, you'll know what I mean. And again, I don't know what it is, but I think we think it was pissed off at the wolves because there was a bunch of wolves around for about 3 nights, and I think it was telling the wolves to get lost.
Time for you guys to hit the bricks. Get out of here. Stinking wolves.
But anyways, you can hear it and see what you think. But
now, when we were up in Coloma camping long time ago, I was up there with Researcher X, and one of the 4 nights we were up there, we were listening to a whole pack of coyotes making a racket. And somewhere about halfway between where they were and where we were, there was one lone coyote challenging them, which did not sound like a normal coyote.
Yeah.
And apparently they weren't really falling for it either, because he kept going, "Screw you guys, come on over here, I want to fight." And then the whole pack of coyotes further away would be like, "Now, screw you, buddy. You come over here and we'll fight." And I kept going back and forth for a long time. And then they made a bunch of calls, and there wasn't any answering call coming back. And then finally you heard one of them yip, and that was the end of anybody calling. So apparently, since they weren't falling for it and coming over to where he was, he sprinted over to where they were, and he grabbed one of them. And that was the end of the coyote calls that night.
Kind of makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Duke, what do you think? How are we doing for time?
Well, after I trim some off here, we'll be less than 2 hours, so we're doing fine. Was there anything else you wanted to say or bring up, or you pretty much got it?
No, I think we're good. If you want to check out our stuff, there's a lot more. We got a lot of reports on our page. The easiest way to find us is Facebook. Go to Facebook, look up WIBS. It's Washington, Idaho Bigfoot Search. And there's a private group, which you can join up. We'll let you, we'd love to have you there, but that's a lot of contributors, like Duke stuff I'll post on there. And there's a lot of people that post on there, but go to our page, because that's our blog, and that's no one else can post there. So it's just our stuff. Right. So if you want to see our stuff, that's the place to go, the WIBS page on Facebook. And all you got to do is like it, and you can look through it. And got a lot of local reports in there. The Upper Priest reports are in there. Micah Peak reports. There's a bunch of good stuff. Got some Native American stuff in there, some reports from them. And so, yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
The natives always have the best information on Bigfoot. Yeah. So again, it's WIBS, which does not stand for weird and insightful Bigfoot stuff.
I know it sounds weird. It's just easy to say and easy to remember. It's Washington, Idaho Bigfoot Search.
Washington, Idaho Bigfoot Search. Not weird, insightful Bigfoot stuff. Remember that.
Well, we couldn't call it Washington, Idaho Sasquatch Search, could we?
Yeah. Well, it's even better. It's not Washington, Utah Sasquatch Search, but
yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, anyway, for anybody who hasn't sort of heard through the grapevine about it, I'm trying to get Nate to show up over here this summer and go on one expedition at least with my team and go up there in the middle of the Sapphire Mountains where the biggies are big.
Or at least a long weekend, right? Yeah.
Hell, if you get the time off, come on over here. Let's do a Wednesday through Sunday. That's the kind of time frame it takes. And then about like Friday and Saturday night, they're all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely try to make a long weekend. For sure. I'll have to look at the schedule and all that. But yeah,
that's the way to do it. Well, we got the whole, and they're friendly. We haven't ever had any aggressive behavior from any of them up in that valley. Unless you count pushing a tree over, which I don't. Yeah. We're being lazy and weren't leaving camp fast enough, so they shoved the tree over to get our attention.
Yeah. Hey, I've been there. Done that.
Well, then we came back and we had lunch, and we sat there again too long, and they shoved another tree over.
Yeah. That's your cue to go. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Eric are sitting there looking at the hillside. There's these 4 trees all together, and only one of them is going like this. And we're like, wait, how can that happen? And all of a sudden it goes, he falls over and like, oh, they just pushed another one over. I think maybe we're supposed to go back in the woods again.
Yeah. Their patience is running out. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I think in our case, it's just the opposite in a lot of situations because, like I said, they kind of know where we're going to go. And we go to check out their big tree structures to see if they've changed them, which, by the way, they do. And we've been documenting it. But they also know that when we get there and see their tree structure, what are we going to do? We're going to go like, man, this is so awesome. These guys are amazing, and brag up how super cool and awesome they are. Which they're like, yeah, we're super cool and awesome. That's right.
They want that lift, yeah.
Yeah, they want that lift. Oh, look at the new stuff we built. We put a new addition on the Super Mega X. Come check it out. You know. Oh wow, they got a new on it.
They probably look forward to you guys getting up there every year. That's funny.
Well, we do too. I mean, I think about it all winter long. I want to go back up there. I want to go back up there. I can't go up there now. There's 6 feet of snow. But I still want to go up there. You know? Can't even, paths don't even open until May.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing about our areas, Duke. And you're in the same boat. We can't even get to our spots till early June because it's all unplowed roads up there and corridors where it's all shaded. I mean, you go. We tried to go Memorial Day a couple of years, maybe 2 out of 3 years, and we got stuck. I mean, the snow's still above your knees, and it's slushy and deep and wet and. Yeah, it's
same thing with Kelly at Rocky Mountain Sasquatch. There's some of those places they go in to change game cams or something, and they're like, "Well, it's we still can't get any further up the road. There's still 1.5 feet of snow. We're gonna have to wait until next month to try and get up here and change these ones." You know.
Yeah, no, it's true. So really, our window's pretty short. We have about 6 months a year we can get up there. So I wish we'd get out more. Here.
We got May, June, July, August, September, and then that's it. Sometime in October, they close the pass again.
Gotcha. Yeah. We can usually go into November, depending on the snow. But yeah, I hear what you're saying there.
Pretty iffy, you know. And if they got the pass open and you go up there and there's a blizzard or something, oh God,
you got to
drive 26 miles on a 1-lane dirt road back out, and a lot of it is clinging to the side of a 500-foot cliff.
No thanks. Not with snow.
No. It's dangerous in the summer when it's dry. With snow, insane. Forget it. No.
That's a death wish there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's thanks. Like those cliff clinging roads you see in Peru or something. Same thing. I didn't even know they had those in the U.S. And like, well, look at that. There's 10 miles of it too. Oh my God.
I don't like that, man. No.
Oh, we actually go all the way around the mountain range and drive an extra hour so we don't have to come in that side where that damn cliff is. The other side's washboard, but at least you're not going to go up a cliff and die, you know.
Exactly. I'll take washboard any day.
Yeah. That's the way we'll go. We'll take the washboard way when we go up there. We'll go through the back valley and go in that way. It's all pretty and scenic and stuff. And when you get on one end of the valley, you can see the little blue clouds over on the other side of those are blue clouds. That's the mountains on the other side of the valley.
How high up are you guys?
We're I think the base of the valley is at about 6,500. Okay. And then it's surrounded by at least 1,000 feet of vertical mountains in every direction around it.
Right. Okay.
So it's a bowl right in the middle of the mountain range, basically. At a mile. Yeah. Over a mile plus. But I don't know what it's like over there where you are, but here we found that most of the time they stick to the lower montane. They tend to like between 4,000 and 6,000. Mm-hmm. And during the summer, they will go higher if it gets too hot. And during the winter, they'll come lower if there's too much snow and they can't access the animals that they want to eat.
Right. No, you're exactly right, Duke. I agree. They're kind of seasonal that way. We've gone in on that trip I was telling you about we do every year. We've gone in August, like early August when it's really hot, and we haven't gotten anything. I mean, they're up high. We think they're way up high when it's that hot.
That's where ours are.
The later you go, like September's good. October, that's hunting season. We get them down below, which is still fairly high, but it's not as high as the tops up there.
Yeah, well, we've been up there later. Well, last year, the video we just turned out over the last few weeks here, 129, part 1, 2, and 3, that was filmed toward the end of September up in the valley. and leaves would change colors and stuff, but it was still fairly decent temperature wise during the day. And they were still up there, and there was plenty of activity, ridiculous amount of activity actually. But I would anticipate during the winter they're not up there at all. They're following the game animals wherever they're going further down the mountain range. And the main reason they're up there during the summer is because reliable climate. Even on the hottest day here in Montana, it's not going to go much above 80 degrees there. And at night it's going to hit about 20.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's one of the tough things about camping up there, because you got that 60-degree temperature variation every day. In the afternoon, you're walking around with shorts and a tank top, and then by later on at night, you're wearing a parka again.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. That's kind of what our area is like too. Yeah, even
Doesn't
in the summer it
them.
gets cold. No, just got to make sure you bring
it's rough on humans.
Just bring a decent sleeping bag in your.
Yeah. Well, poor William, he doesn't ever camp hardly at all anyway, and he's from Texas, so it's like camping where it's cold. What? And I said, do you ever go skiing or anything? Oh yeah, we used to go out to Colorado and go skiing. Bring all your skiing equipment. Bring your Antarctic equipment. Bring your mountaineering and winter camping equipment. Bring everything that you can to keep you warm, because you're going to get cold. And he even still says, I brought all the gear I had with me, and I still thought I was going to die that first night. It was so damn cold.
Oh man, yeah, you got to be prepared, man.
Yeah, well, even if you're really prepared, and he did a great job of prepping for it, but there's only so much prepping you can do, and it's like, well, your body's got to be able to handle it,
That's
and
true.
he ain't used to that kind of cold. That's like midwinter down there in Texas, 20 degrees, 22 degrees, right? And the other thing is he's had knee replacements. Both his knees are metal, so that temperature change, oh my God. Yeah, I know other people that have metal parts, and when they're warmer they expand, and when they're colder they shrink, and it's tough for him to walk on uneven ground. And there's no such thing as even ground up there anywhere.
Right.
So he just took, that poor guy took such a beating being up there and trying to walk around those damn mountains. All right, Nate, I'll quit stalling and I'll let you go here. It's having so much fun talking to you.
I got to get up early for work. Otherwise, I'd stick around with you. But I got to get up at 5 for work. So.
All right. Yeah. You got to go.
Good. I'm not. All right.
Getting late here.
Thanks, buddy.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate you. Okay, we'll be
thanks
in touch.
for being on the show, everybody.
Conference too, by the way. Have fun.
Oh yeah, I'll record some of it so everybody else can see it. So keep in mind, everybody. Go ahead.
From Vegas. As I say, I'll bring back some stories from Vegas for you.
There you go. And we'll hear him at some point in the future. So everybody go check out his groups. WIBS, WIBS, Nate Rudd, Facebook. Go find him. Check it out. Join the group. Pay attention. He will be posting cool stuff for you. And meanwhile, remember, all the usual things apply. Don't punt the puck, woodgies. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't flip off the mountain giant. And oh, God help you, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiee. Night, everybody.
I love it. Thanks, dude.